Welcome to a journey through one of America's most perplexing mysteries. Today, we delve into the life and disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa, a man whose influence on the labor movement is as undeniable as the mystery surrounding his fate. Jimmy Hoffa, once a powerful union leader with the Teamsters, commanded immense respect and fear in equal measure. Known for his relentless drive and complex relationships, Hoffa's story is a captivating saga of power, betrayal, and unresolved questions. On July 30th, 1975, Jimmy Hoffa vanished, leaving behind a trail of theories but no concrete answers. His disappearance has fueled decades of speculation, investigations, and a cultural fascination that persists to this day. In this video, we aim to explore the layers of intrigue that surround Hoffa's disappearance, examine the key theories about what really happened to him, and attempt to understand why, after all these years, the case of Jimmy Hoffa continues to captivate and puzzle us. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, what do you think happened to Jimmy Hoffa? Born on February 14, 1913 in Brazil, Indiana, James Riddle Hoffa was a man shaped by the harsh realities of the early 20th century American labor environment. The son of a coal miner who died when Jimmy was just 7, the Hoffa family moved to Detroit, where Jimmy would later dive into the labor movement. From a young age, Hoffa was acutely aware of the struggles that workers faced. His early life was marked by economic hardship, driving him to leave school and begin working full-time by the age of 14. It was during these formative years, working on loading docks, that Hoffa's fire for advocacy and union activities was kindled. The Teamsters Union, officially known as the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, was founded in 1903. It began as a craft union for Teamsters, the drivers of horse-drawn wagons, but evolved into one of the most powerful labor unions in America, representing a diverse range of workers, from truck drivers to warehouse workers. Hoffa's charisma and keen sense for negotiation quickly made him a standout figure within the Teamsters. By the 1930s, he had risen to a key leadership role, working tirelessly to expand the union's influence across the United States. However, Hoffa's methods and associations sometimes skirted the edges of legality. His ambitious push to consolidate union power often entangled him with questionable figures, including known mobsters. This would eventually lead to legal troubles, culminating in a 1967 conviction for jury tampering, attempted bribery, and fraud. Despite his conviction, Hoffa's influence remained strong. His imprisonment in 1967 did little to diminish his resolve or his stature within the labor movement. After relentless appeals, Hoffa was released in 1971, thanks to a presidential commutation from Richard Nixon, which controversially barred him from engaging in union activities until 1980. This period of forced step back from the union that he had helped build and shape was frustrating for Hoffa, fueling his determination to reclaim his position at the top of the Teamsters, a determination that some believe led directly to his mysterious disappearance. On July 30th, 1975, Hoffa was scheduled to meet at the Mattress Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Township, Michigan, a well-known dining spot not far from Detroit. The meeting was supposed to include several reputed mob figures, with whom Hoffa had both alliances and conflicts over the years. However, witnesses report that Hoffa appeared to be stood up, growing increasingly agitated as he waited. As the minutes turned into hours, Hoffa made several calls from a nearby payphone, expressing his frustration to contacts and his wife. This was the last time anyone would hear from Jimmy Hoffa. By late afternoon, he was seen getting into a car with several men and then vanished, seemingly swallowed by thin air. Immediately following his disappearance, local police launched a massive search. The Mattress Red Fox parking lot became the centre of an extensive forensic investigation, but no significant clues were found there. Hoffa's car, left behind in the lot, held no answers, serving only as a silent witness to his unexplained disappearance. The search efforts expanded quickly, with authorities combing through nearby areas and following up on countless tips from the public. Despite the high-profile nature of the case and the resources poured into the investigation, Hoffa's fate remained shrouded in mystery. As the trail went cold, the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa became one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century. The lack of conclusive evidence and the myriad theories about his fate continue to fuel speculation and debate to this day. Perhaps the most prevalent theory is that his disappearance was mob-related. Hoffa's ascent within the Teamsters was marked by his strategic alliances with several high-profile mobsters. These relationships were initially formed to help Hoffa gain control of the union through whatever means necessary, including intimidation and bribery. In return, the mob had unfettered access to the Teamsters' pension fund, which they used as a bank for their operations. As Hoffa sought to regain power within the Teamsters after his release from prison, his relationships with these powerful mob figures began to sour. The mob, having grown accustomed to the free flow of money from the union's coffers, saw Hoffa's aggressive comeback as a threat to their lucrative arrangement. Insiders and experts often cite the cooling of these relationships as a potential motive for the mob's involvement in Hoffa's disappearance. Prominent mob figures from regions like Detroit and New Jersey have been frequently mentioned in connection with his vanishing. The theory deepens with allegations that Hoffa was planning to expose the mafia's control over the Teamsters' pension fund if he could not regain the presidency of the union. This ultimatum might have been seen as a direct threat, prompting mob bosses to order Hoffa's disappearance to protect their interests. Investigations have followed numerous leads, suggesting that mob hitmen could have been responsible, with various accounts pointing to hidden burial sites from suburban Detroit to the end zones of football stadiums. Yet, despite extensive searches, no physical evidence has conclusively tied these sites to Hoffa's remains. Beyond the murky world of mob connections, Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance may also be intricately linked to the internal strife and power struggles within the Teamsters Union itself. Hoffa's ambition to reclaim the presidency of the union after his release from prison was not just a comeback. It was a move that threatened to disrupt the established order within the Teamsters. Hoffa's leadership style was both charismatic and authoritarian, earning him both fervent loyalty and deep-seated resentment within the union ranks. After his conviction and subsequent prison sentence, the Teamsters had evolved under new leadership, which was not eager to relinquish power back to Hoffa. The power vacuum created during Hoffa's imprisonment had been filled by Frank Fitzsimmons, who, unlike Hoffa, was more amenable to maintaining a peaceful coexistence with both the government and the mob. Hoffa's aggressive push to remove Fitzsimmons and retake control was seen by many as a destabilizing threat that could lead to renewed scrutiny and potential legal challenges. Within this cauldron of union politics, some theorists suggest that it was not the mob, but Hoffa's own union rivals who orchestrated his disappearance. The motive? To maintain the status quo and keep the union's new leadership intact, without reverting to the controversial and potentially volatile days of Hoffa's rule. Supporting this theory are whispers of secret meetings and conspiracies among top union officials who stood to lose the most from Hoffa's return. While no concrete evidence has ever surfaced to directly support this, the timing and circumstances of Hoffa's push for control provide ample fodder for speculation. Another theory is that of the possible involvement of the United States government. Hoffa's extensive connections, not just within the labour and criminal worlds, but also his engagements with high-level political figures, may have positioned him as a significant threat to certain powerful interests. Hoffa was known to have contentious relationships with various federal agencies, notably the FBI and the Kennedy administration. His vehement opposition to the Kennedy family, especially Robert Kennedy, who was the Attorney General and a staunch adversary in legal battles against labor corruption, brewed a potent mix of mutual distrust and animosity. This animosity was not one-sided. Hoffa's ability to mobilize labor unions and his potential to disclose sensitive information about corrupt dealings in government could have made him a target for those who wished to silence him permanently. Theories suggest that elements within the government could have orchestrated Hoffa's disappearance to avoid political embarrassment or prevent him from exposing compromising information. Further fueling these theories are declassified documents and reports that hint at the extraordinary lengths to which the government went to monitor Hoffa's activities. Some speculate that government agencies not only kept him under surveillance, but might have played a more direct role in his eventual vanishing. Supporters of this theory point to the abrupt cessation of intense government scrutiny following Hoffa's disappearance, as if a major problem had been suddenly and conveniently resolved. The timing and efficiency of Hoffa's disappearance lead some to believe that only an organisation with significant resources and reach, such as the government, could execute such a disappearance without leaving a trace. While hard evidence is scarce and definitive proof remains elusive, the government conspiracy theory persists as a dark narrative in the saga of Hoffa's life and disappearance. Amidst the theories circling Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance, one of the less sinister but equally dramatic possibilities is that Hoffa may have willingly disappeared into the witness protection program. This theory proposes that Hoffa, facing threats from both the mob and possibly from within his own union, chose to cut a deal with federal authorities. Under immense pressure and fearing for his life, Hoffa could have agreed to provide critical information about organised crime and corrupt union activities in exchange for a new identity and a safe haven far from his enemies. The Witness Protection Program, known for its efficacy in erasing identities and protecting key witnesses, would have been the ideal escape route. Supporters of this theory argue that Hoffa's deep knowledge of mob operations and his insider status could have made him an invaluable asset to federal investigations aiming to dismantle organised crime's grip on labour unions. In exchange, disappearing Hoffa would prevent any retaliation against him, allowing him to live out his life in anonymity. However, this theory raises questions about the logistics and feasibility of such an arrangement. Hoffa was a highly recognisable figure with a well-documented public and private life, making a complete disappearance into anonymity a challenging endeavour. Moreover, no concrete evidence has surfaced to support claims that Hoffa ever entered the programme, or that he provided information leading to significant legal actions against the mob or corrupt union officials. While the idea of Hoffa starting anew under government protection offers a less violent conclusion to his story, the lack of evidence and the enduring mystery surrounding his actual fate leave this theory as one of the many speculative narratives in the search for the truth. Could Jimmy Hoffa have walked away from his life to start over? One of the more speculative ideas posits that Hoffa might have chosen to flee the country altogether, seeking a new life far from the troubles that plagued him in the United States. This theory, while intriguing, challenges much of what is known about Hoffa's personality and his circumstances prior to his disappearance. Hoffa was deeply entrenched in American labor politics and had a fierce loyalty to the Teamsters. His identity was built around his leadership and his relentless fight for union rights, making a voluntary departure seem out of character. Moreover, Hoffa was known for his combative nature and his unwillingness to back down from a fight, whether against the mob, rival union factions, or political adversaries. The idea of Hoffa quietly slipping away to a foreign country contradicts his known disposition and his public declarations of never giving up on his battle to reclaim the presidency of the Teamsters. Supporters of this theory argue that the overwhelming pressures and threats could have driven Hoffa to make a drastic decision to escape. They speculate that with the right connections and resources, Hoffa might have been able to orchestrate a disappearance abroad, perhaps to a place where he could live without fear of retribution. However, this scenario raises significant logistical questions. How would Hoffa, one of the most recognizable figures in America at the time, manage to evade detection both during his departure and in his new life? The lack of any credible sightings or evidence of Hoffa living abroad further complicates this theory. While the notion of Jimmy Hoffa starting anew in a distant land offers a narrative of escape and perhaps even peace, the practical realities and Hoffa's own indomitable spirit suggest otherwise. The investigation into Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance on July 30th, 1975, has long been criticised for its numerous flaws and mishandlings. From the outset, key pieces of evidence were overlooked, and essential leads were not pursued with the urgency they warranted. One of the most glaring issues was the delay in securing the crime scene at the Mattress Red Fox restaurant parking lot. Hoffa's car, left behind in the lot, was not immediately treated as a potential goldmine of evidence. This delay allowed for the possibility of contamination or tampering by individuals who might have known Hoffa's plans for that day. Moreover, the initial response lacked prompt and thorough witness interviews. Vital testimonies from people who might have seen Hoffa or suspicious activities around the restaurant were not collected in the critical hours following his disappearance. This failure to act swiftly meant that potentially crucial information faded with time or was forgotten by witnesses. Several pieces of evidence that could have provided leads were reportedly overlooked. For instance, tyre tracks and footprints in the parking lot were not thoroughly documented or analysed in the immediate aftermath. Such evidence could have offered clues about who Hoffa might have met and how he was transported away from the scene. The initial investigative efforts were marked by inconsistency and a lack of coordination among different law enforcement agencies. The local police, the FBI, and state authorities often worked at cross purposes, leading to a fragmented approach that likely allowed critical information to slip through the cracks. These investigative missteps have been a focal point for critics, who argue that the initial handling of the case set back efforts to uncover the truth by critical days, if not weeks. Some theorists even suggest that these lapses were not purely accidental, but may have been intentional. The chaotic nature of the investigation has led to speculation that certain evidence might have been deliberately ignored or mishandled to protect powerful interests, or to cover up the involvement of influential figures. Despite the passage of nearly 5 decades, the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa remains an active and evolving mystery. Recent developments in the case continue to captivate the public and investigators alike, as new searches and revelations emerge. In recent years, there have been several renewed efforts to uncover Hoffa's fate. One notable search took place in 2021, when the FBI conducted an excavation in Jersey City, New Jersey, following a tip that Hoffa's remains might be buried beneath the Pulaski Skyway. This search, like many before it, ultimately yielded no conclusive evidence, but it demonstrated the enduring commitment to solving this mystery. Additionally, significant releases of FBI documents have shed new light on the breadth of the investigation. In 2017, thousands of pages of previously classified documents were made public, offering insights into the extensive surveillance and numerous interviews conducted over the years. These documents have fueled further analysis and speculation among researchers and journalists. New eyewitness accounts and leads continue to surface, adding fresh dimensions to the investigation. For example, in 2019, Frank Sheeran, a mob hitman, claimed on his deathbed that he was involved in Hoffa's murder, This confession, although controversial and lacking corroborative evidence, sparked renewed interest and debate over the credibility of such claims. Technological advances have also played a role in reinvigorating the investigation. Ground-penetrating radar and other modern forensic tools have been employed in recent searches, providing more precise and non-invasive methods to explore potential burial sites. The persistent public and media interest in Hoffa's case ensures that it remains in the spotlight. Documentaries, books, and films continue to explore and re-examine the evidence, keeping the conversation alive and encouraging new tips and information to come forward. As these recent developments illustrate, the search for Jimmy Hoffa is far from over. Each new lead, technological innovation, and revelation brings us a step closer to understanding what happened on that fateful day in 1975. The quest for answers continues to drive investigators, historians, and the public in unravelling one of America's most enduring mysteries. The story of Jimmy Hoffa is not just about a man who vanished. It's about the power struggles and alliances that defined a significant era in American labour history. Hoffa's rise to prominence within the Teamsters showcased his relentless drive to empower workers, but it also exposed him to dangerous entanglements with mob figures who sought to exploit the union's resources. Throughout his career, Hoffa's methods were often questioned, and his associations with organised crime brought both power and peril. His disappearance in 1975 marked the culmination of these high-stakes conflicts, leaving a legacy of speculation and unresolved mystery. The flawed investigation and potential government interference add another layer of complexity. Whether through mishandled evidence or deliberate obstruction, these factors have contributed to the unsolved nature of Hoffa's case, highlighting the intricate connections between various power players of the time. As we reflect on the myriad theories, from mob involvement and internal union politics to government conspiracies and witness protection, each angle provides a unique lens through which to view Hoffa's life and the era he helped shape. His story serves as a reminder of the precarious balance between influence, ambition, and the darker forces at play. Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance remains one of the most enduring mysteries in American history. It's a story that continues to be told, retold, and examined, ensuring that Hoffa's impact on labour politics and his unresolved fate remain etched in our collective consciousness.